You're listening to ARC Advisory Group's Digital Transformation Podcast, where we explore how people, processes, and technology converge in the industrial sector to shape a more digital and more sustainable future. In every episode, we talk with industry leaders who are navigating their digital transformation journey in practical and sometimes novel ways. Whether you're a business professional or just curious, these conversations will give you fresh ideas on accelerating your digital transformation through effective governance, change management, and application of technology at scale. From data historians to industrial data fabrics, industrial automation and robotics hardware, factory software to enterprise software, and the fast-evolving industrial AI ecosystem, there's always something new to learn. If you want to go further and make a real difference, be sure to connect with us at ARC Advisory Group. Our expertise can help your organization govern and adopt safe and secure industrial-grade technologies at scale, driving both innovation and results.
Welcome. I'm Colin Masson, Research Director for Industrial AI at ARC, and I'm here today with Dustin Johnson, CTO of Seeq. Dustin, tell our audience a little bit about yourself and Seeq before we discuss industrial AI assistants and agents.
Sure. So as Colin said, my name's Dustin Johnson. I'm the Chief Technology Officer here at Seeq, and Seeq is an industrial analytics corporation focusing on manufacturing, and that spans from oil and gas to pharmaceuticals, pulp and paper, mining metals, materials, all across the gamut. We are really focused on time series data and how that can empower insights.
Gen AI continues to reshape the way we work. How do you see it transforming the modern user interface? What are the potential implications of this particular application of AI in the industrial sector?
Sure. Yeah. So two key concepts come to my mind when I think about that. And one is Gen UI and the other one is subtractive manufacturing. And I'll go into both of those briefly here. So Gen UI is a new term. To be honest with you, I don't know if it's going to gain traction or not, but it's helped, at least in my mind, really thinking about how we can leverage Gen AI's ability to code and configure to bring custom user interface capabilities to users. So, I'm thinking of like Microsoft Copilot Pages. They just launched a newish feature there. And in many ways, it's like macro recording. You probably know about macro recording, some of the more advanced capabilities in some editors and such. And this is that on steroids, right? Where you can imagine asking the AI to build you buttons and forms and fields, graphs, charts that are custom for your particular workflows. And that's amazing. That's almost magical. There are downsides to it, right? Not everybody would have the same user interface, right? Customers would have their own user interface that's tailored for them. There's upsides and downsides to that. But that's pretty amazing. I think that's a huge way that we'll see the technology of user interface change, besides just the obvious of natural language. And the other one is subtractive manufacturing. And stick with me on this one because it's a bit of a reach, I think. But in my mind, there's kind of two in the family tree of manufacturing. There's like two main types of manufacturing. There's additive and subtractive manufacturing. When we're talking about non-biologics and things, we're talking about physical items. And so much of our user interface up till now, like as humanity, so much of our user interface up till now has been around additive manufacturing. You open up an application, whether that's Photoshop or Word or PowerPoint or whatever text editor, and it's empty. It's a blank sheet of paper, and we kind of build from there. And that's been necessary and very comfortable, I think, largely because if you get too much data on the screen, if you start with everything and then you have to pare it down, man, you really need good tooling to pull that off in a comfortable way. Like you need to be able to wield with power that kind of data. And I suspect that with a lot of the advantages or advances that we've had, including AI, that we've kind of crested over the hump in terms of being able to wield that data pretty successfully. So I think one of the trends that I see coming up is companies building user interfaces where there is a lot of data on the screen in the beginning, and then it's pared down through filtering and manipulation and such. And the advantage of this is that users can see immediately the kind of changes that they're making. They don't have to like go through a wizard type workflow and then say, oh, that's not what I wanted, and then like go back and then start again. They can more iteratively move on that type of data. It's not just AI technologies that are going to fuel this in my mind, but AI is a big contributor.
Okay, and I think that I agree with you that Gen AI it's at least a major component of the new UI is probably the biggest impact I'm seeing as I talk to not just Seeq, but I kind of just got off some calls with supply chain vendors and the way they're really thinking about, because they have incredibly complex systems that need PhDs, right, to kind of go and configure them. And they're totally rethinking their approach and how to build or assemble or decompose, if you prefer the subtractive analogy, their UIs to take advantage of this technology. So thanks for those thoughts on the general, no pun intended, application of Gen AI to the UI problem. Now, synonymous with the term Gen AI are the LLMs, the large language models that we see evolve almost on a weekly basis. It seems like there's a new iteration or a new language model. Now we're seeing regional language models and of course small language models, and now I guess we're just starting to see industry models, right? Adaptive industry models that have been trained a little bit more specifically. But you have a particular challenge. Why is it particularly difficult to train these models to understand time series data and analytics that are at the core of yours and, of course, your industrial customers' process operations?
Sure, yeah. I mean, I'll start off by pointing out maybe the obvious, right? When we say LLMs, we oftentimes gloss over what that acronym actually is, but it's large language models. And time series is not language. That's a big part of why it's fairly difficult to wrangle. Is it's not something that's intuitive for human consumption, certainly at the scale that a lot of industrial applications pump out this type of data. So in my mind, you really need to have a set of tooling, a set of analytical capabilities that is much like a human would need. Right, the LLM, if you think about that as being at least right now, a maybe more simplistic human, but still a pretty good archetype of a human there, that entity needs the same sort of capabilities that a human needs to be able to wrangle time series data. And you can't just shove in a bunch of time series data and expect to get insights out the other side. There are some companies in the market that claim you can, and you might even be able to for very niche applications when the situation is relatively well understood or well sensed, right? There's enough sensors on it to be able to get to the heart of the problem in a more autonomous fashion. But more often than not, that's simply not the case. Like more often than not, you need to have a human in the loop providing some of that extra context. You need to connect to far more than just time series data. You need the kind of analytics capabilities that Seeq provides. I'm clearly biased in this, in terms of getting that data into a form that is human digestible. And if it's human digestible, it's definitely LLM digestible. So I really think it doesn't even need to be all the way to pure human digestible, because humans, I don't know about you, but I need graphics, right? I want graphics. I want charts. I want things that make the results pop off the screen in a at a glance type of fashion. Fortunately, LLMs, they don't need that level. You don't need to take it all the way to the last mile there. You can stop at a table most of the time and then ingest that and then use Gen AI to go that last mile to really pull those insights off the page. So in my mind, the most reductive way of saying it is you need to go from time series data to tabular data, and then you can go from there, right? And Seeq is a great tool for doing that, a great platform for doing that, but there are others, and I think that's kind of the domain of how I see Gen AI technologies. And for me, when I throw terms around, when I say generative AI, I'm really talking about that tabular data to users' eyeballs kind of stage of the process. And I'm talking about ML or machine learning when I talk about the time series to tabular side of that process.
Great. That's a great distinction, a nice way to think about it. So thanks for that. Let's dive into what's at the core of AI assistants, co-pilots, genies, Clippy 2.0 I've even heard used, Q if you're in the AWS camp, whatever you want to brand them, right? What key features do you think a software system such as yours has to offer to be considered an effective AI, choose your branded name for it, right?
Yeah. That's a great question. I mean, Clippy was, a thing that, when I, maybe I'm dating myself a little bit here, but when I was in school, Clippy, I think it was high school, Clippy debuted. And even to us in school, that it was probably most useful for, it was, the butt end of a lot of jokes. And, some of that was the kind of corny graphics and presentation on it. But a lot of assistants these days do feel a lot like Clippy. Let's be honest. I mean, they do to me. And I think that's something that we in the software industry need to overcome, right? We need to push through, because today's Clippy 2.0 is very different than the Clippy 1.0 in terms of its raw capabilities. Right? I think people are generally floored the first time they try some of the real powerful large language models, not the ones that necessarily can run on your laptop. I mean, those tend to be pretty Clippy-esque, but the ones that are really at scale are just almost magical. Now, they have clear downsides to them and clear limitations, and we as humanity, as a species, are definitely working through a lot of those questions right now. But the natural interface capabilities of these tools is just unparalleled. All right, and so how do we leverage that? I think once we push through, once we convince our users to give Clippy 2.0 a second try, some of that is dropping the name Clippy, we really can, have them leverage their curiosity. So now, like for onboarding, right? I mean, you can really use it as a means of getting users into the product quickly. Everybody skips the tutorial. Who reads the manuals to install IKEA furniture, right? You kind of give it a go, at least for the first few steps. If you're anything like me, you get confused and you have to back up and listen to the blob on a page tell you how to do it. But you try and give it a go without reading the full and complete manual, or you try and give it a go after reading the first few chapters. And now people are going to be a lot more successful with that approach. Right? Because now you've got a custom-tailored mechanism for helping you onboard into that tool. And bonus points if the assistant or whatever it is branded in that tool produces work products for you, helps you, doesn't just tell you how to do things, but helps you. And extra bonus points if how it does those things is able to be inspected and deconstructed by the end user. Right? We wind up building some pretty complicated and powerful analytics products, in Seeq, and it would be almost a disservice to users if the AI assistant created those analytics products in a way that you couldn't inspect and learn from, right? If you weren't able to also tweak it, right? A lot of times one of the maybe downsides or current limitations of AI right now is a lot of times it'll get you very close to what you want, but just a little bit off, maybe sometimes frustratingly off. And if you can't manipulate that, then that's just like the most frustrating user experience, right? You get like exactly what you want, except for you want the line to be blue instead of green. If you can't make it blue instead of green, then, it's even worse than not being able to do it, I think. So I think that's a key point, right? So you've got like, onboarding and training, and then actually being a user inspectable hand, a tutor, if you will. And then it really does, at the end of the day, all those things come together to bridge the gap between the technical powerhouses and the non-technical people, right? It brings more people to the table. Right? Now more people are enabled on technologies that formerly required too much training, too much investment, too much brain power or time, right? Now more people can interact in a deeper way with these tools and techniques, and that's super powerful.
Well, can you talk a little bit about Seeq's assistant specifically, and maybe just how are customers leveraging it already, right? Because I know you have customers running with the Seeq assistant, so maybe just bring it to life a little bit with how your AI assistant is delivering value.
Yeah, sure. I'd love to. As you can imagine, we, like a lot of folks in pretty much all software industries, are rapidly adopting AI into our product because there's just so much promise here, and the user need is so clear for all the reasons we talked about. So we have been building that into Seeq, and because we have a SaaS rapid deployment model, the vast majority of our customer base has it available to them right now, and have been leveraging it at surprisingly high adoption rates. And as far as we can tell, it's been really good for people being able to get farther into the nooks and crannies of our product, and that's amazing because it means that they are now more enabled, right? They're more powerful. They're more able to answer the kind of questions that they have. And we've had it reported to us too. So that's kind of the analytics data that we see coming off of some of our instrumentation. But we've had customers report to us that they're able to achieve their sustainability times 2 to 8x faster, just because we're eliminating stumbling blocks in the beginning, to making confident and immediate $1 million operational improvements is a quote that I'm looking at here. British Sugar actually is a name that I can drop. They reported using the AI assistant to help manage challenges with workforce skill gaps and loss of corporate knowledge, right? As brain drain happens, as senior subject matter experts retire. And they reported that it currently requires 10 years to fully skill some of their technical experts. And with the AI assistant, they're forecasting to dramatically increase the efficiency of their technical teams and cut that time to skill an expert in half. And we're looking to do even better than that. And we have seen a pretty broad impact. But those are some specifics.
Thanks, Dustin. I think that really highlights why assistants, or whatever we want to call them, are really hugely impactful, even if they're not solving the core AI problem, the math problem side of the equation. Just the ability to get into the nooks and crannies, deploy software, leverage software that we already have, is an amazing set of capabilities that we shouldn't underestimate. Let's branch off into what's hot right now, right? There's a discussion around AI agents, or I hate the term, but I've heard it called agentic AI, which I kind of struggle with because I don't think it's like a whole new class of AI. I think it's an implementation philosophy more than a new type of AI. But what are the key differences in your mind between an AI agent and an AI assistant? And what extra benefits do you think agents provide to organizations over and above the tremendous value that AI assistants are already starting to deliver?
Yeah, that's a good question. So first off, Colin, you didn't identify or define how you see them as different, but I suspect we agree. So I'll try and define it and see if you agree with this. So in my mind, AI assistants produce output based on specific prompts, right? They're call and response kind of things, and of course they're leveraging LLMs and such in the back, and maybe RAGs and all kinds of pre-processing and specifically trained models and things like that. Whereas agentic AI or agents, folks define it as being more autonomous, right? Having a higher degree of autonomy. Is that how you would define the terms?
Yeah, I think broadly, I think there's also an autonomous. Autonomous is one aspect, but I think the other is maybe context, right? That it's not the agents, they kind of lose context very often as soon as you stop that particular prompt, and then the next prompt is you're almost starting from scratch, right? And agents supposedly, right, will maintain more context, which they would have to if they're going to be running autonomously or doing tasks in the background, right? So
yep. And that's pretty much how I would identify them as well. And I would say that, from my perspective, it's really powerful to have both of them. I don't really see them as having a bright line dividing them, frankly. I suspect what people are getting at when they broach the topic is just how surface level is your AI capability, right? They're almost kind of grading you. You get an A if you at least know what an agent is, and have implemented something along those lines, and you get a B otherwise. At Seeq, we wind up taking the approach of trying to really nail whatever it is we're doing, regardless of what label we slap on it, right? And so autonomy can be a very, very powerful thing. It can also be kind of a scary thing for our customer base, right? We're not talking about an app on your phone here. We're talking about systems that are powering our modern way of life. And a lot of times, even though Seeq doesn't get into safety critical things, there's real safety and risk involved here in the manufacturing and industrial space. So we do have to be careful with how wild our ambitions get when it comes to AI, but I don't think that diminishes at all the value that it brings users. And so for me, I think to some degree, I somewhat reject the framing of the this or that, and try and just look at, okay, great, we've got artificial intelligence, we've got machine learning, we've got amazing connectivity to data that has been stored for decades, and we've got huge amounts of data, more than we ever have. And what we're really struggling with is the ability to digest it all. It seems like if you put all that together in one blender and you really focus on that and Seeq is proof of this. We've seen massive amounts of insights that have led directly to profits and yields and decreased downtime, and all the good things that we're trying to strive for the benefit of efficiency as humanity, but also just the benefit of sustainability and being able to do more with less.
Yeah, I think you raised some interesting points there. The probably where I've seen the most progress on agents is actually when I've been talking with supply chain vendors who have been using various forms of AI, like many of us in the industrial sector, for decades, and it's really almost a new label, as you put it, right, for something they've been doing for many years in terms of having something that monitors, and maybe it was an object in the past, right? And I'm even hearing discussions of the granularity of agents, right? Like the granularity of objects from a couple of decades ago, right? So, but performing, when I talk with the supply chain guys, I think they're really grabbing onto the agents label because it's something they kind of been doing for a while, and they can sell, right, or promote that idea that they have agents monitoring certain supply chain activities, and then they can coordinate them and orchestrate them to whatever degree of human in loop or closed loop that makes sense for a particular supply chain problem. So having said that, I mean, do you have anything that you would label as an agent today, or do you have something that you've identified that does fit more of that idea of an agent than a chatbot, I guess, right?
Yeah. So I would say that if I was compelled into it, I would put our existing capabilities as somewhere in the gray space between the two. You know, if I was, it definitely exceeds what I think most people consider to be just an assistant, and it can, our current offering can interact with our whole product platform capabilities. So it can do tasks on your behalf, but those tasks are things that you ask it to do. It's not going out and doing things and creating stuff on its own. However, the rest of our platform capabilities do have significant monitoring by exception capabilities, as you're talking about with your supply chain example there. And so the generative AI piece is really acting on the user's behalf as more of an assistant at its current state. Our entire AI pipeline, like you said, I define AI as encompassing generative AI and machine learning. And if you agree with me, then we do have AI machine learning that is purpose-built to monitor by exception, along with the other modeling capabilities that Seeq has, whether they're first principles or empirical or machine learning or inevitably some combination of those three. That is very much autonomous, very much monitoring by exception. That's where we really need to go as a company, as an industry, right? We don't need humans spending their time reviewing routine boilerplate stuff where most of the time it's going really, really well. That's just a waste of everybody's time and attention and effort. But I will say that we are, and I don't want to spill my colleagues' candy for later in our roadmap, early next year, where you'll hear us talk a lot more about capabilities in our generative AI capabilities that cheat much more firmly towards agentic AI, and it largely goes around empowering users to have a much broader scope than they ordinarily would. So being able to do things at big scale, to be able to ask broad questions that you must have had some sort of anticipation of those questions being asked, or the need for those to even begin answering them. Things like, what went wrong in my plant yesterday, or have it be able to alert you when something goes wrong in your plant, and have some pre-filtering that it's not just a false alarm or that a storm of alerts that come from one minor malfunction in some arcane area of the plant.
Right, and maybe just to answer your question, yes, I consider industrial AI, and I tend to use that term to encompass Gen AI, machine learning, causal AI, neurosymbolic. Pick your machine learning algorithm or heuristics technique. To me, I just think of that as a tool set, and my label for that tool set is industrial AI, just because I look at the industrial use cases. And I don't see AI agents as being Gen AI specific, right? In fact, many of those supply chain vendors I were talking to are using algorithms that are being developed over dozens of years. Now they're using a blend, right? They're kind of using Gen AI as the natural language way that you may interact, but then the agent is doing some math problem, right, in the background, and is using some other form of AI to solve that. So, but anyway, I'm sure we're going to talk a lot more about agents. If the hype continues, then next year could be the year of agents, right? So we'll see. Speaking of which, as we move into 2025, it's just around the corner. So maybe it's a great time to ask you, as everyone's putting out their predictions, right, for 2025, how do you think tech leaders will perceive Gen AI and the broader industrial AI toolset? Will they be excited about the opportunities it offers next year, or do you think that they're going to be more cautious due to some of the limitations and security challenges, and maybe some of the disillusionment maybe that they may experience this year?
Yeah. So I think, I don't have a crystal ball. If I did, I would have made $1 billion in the stock market already. I mean, I would use that crystal ball for all kinds of things. But I don't. So I'm just guessing like you, and everybody else, I suppose. But here's what my crystal ball would say, I think, is that we're definitely on a hype curve. When it comes to Gen AI. I think that's not a novel observation or even a bold declaration. I think it's pretty accepted. We're on a hype curve. The thing is for me, I don't think it's all hype. I think there's a big kernel here. The hype curve will wane. I think some of the contributions to that waning is that a lot of companies are just adding, in a slapdash fashion, Gen AI chatbots, very, very surface level to their applications. They're not well integrated. I think that probably some of the security concerns around just AI in general will come out a little bit more, and deep fakes and advanced phishing and digital spoofing and all that stuff will make the news more and sour a little bit of the rosy, maybe overly optimistic image that AI has. And so we'll see a shift on that front, more zero trust security models and things. But I do think that AI fueled innovations like Gen UI will continue to mature, and they'll help Gen AI embed itself in a more durable and useful way in our tools and our lives. And society will begin to adapt to the challenges of security and such, and it'll become an expectation, right? I think in my mind that's inevitable. And so maybe that's when we've kind of made peace with the fact that it's not all good, but it's on balance good. That I think is what I foresee for 2025 and maybe the year after that. It's an amazing technology. I do think it has legs. I mean, quick anecdote here. I've been around just long enough to remember when XML was the new hype. Like, I literally remember going to Comdex, like a large computer show in Las Vegas, and XML was the new hotness. Right, that's XML. It's ridiculous. Right. You think about it. There's been so many hype curves, especially in the rapid world of tech. But AI is going to stick around. It has to. It's a good thing that it will, and it'll allow humans to focus on the interesting and valuable challenges that bring real value. Free us from the mundane.
Yes, I think that's great. I'm not sure the term Gen UI will stick, but I agree with that may be its lasting value as part of what I think we agree on, which is really that it's been good to put the spotlight on the broader industrial AI tool set. Mm-hmm. And it has added significantly to that tool set and changed the way we interact with complex software. So it'll be interesting to look back a couple of years from now and see if see how things have evolved. But I'm with you. I think there may be a little bit of a injection of reality, a bit more discipline on applying the right AI tool for the job at hand, the use case at hand. But I don't see us slacking off. It's just got too much value.
Agreed. Couldn't agree more.
Right. Thanks. You've been listening to Colin Masson of ARC and Dustin Johnson, CTO of Seeq, discussing the role of industrial AI assistants and co-pilots. For more on today's topic, follow Dustin and I on LinkedIn and look for our Sparks, that's short podcast by ARC, on arcweb.com.
Thanks for tuning in to ARC Advisory Group's Digital Transformation Podcast. Today, we explored how to accelerate your digital transformation through effective governance, change management, and application of technology at scale. Now's the time to take what you've heard and start implementing these changes in your own work. Please share this episode with others who are passionate about applying technology the right way to address skills gaps, create more intelligent processes, while building a more profitable and sustainable future. For those looking to go deeper, ARC Advisory Group offers unparalleled guidance in developing digital transformation strategies for industrial organizations. Please reach out to us for these expert insights and support that can help you turn these ideas into action and lead your organization towards a more profitable and sustainable path.